Being human to me is, I think about this. God designed me and put me on this earth and made everything in my system to operate the way he meant it to operate. And so being human is utilizing what God has given me to my best ability and taking care of what he's given to me.
Welcome to the On Being Human podcast, where we believe transforming ourselves can positively transform society. Your host, Brandy Fleck, has the honor of exploring the human condition with real people who bravely share their personal stories of adversity, healing, joy, and more. If you're seeking empowerment, strength, and inspiration, listen in to engage and explore tough topics that help us humanize one another, understand ourselves better, spread love, and connect.
Welcome back this week to the On Being Human podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Fleck. Neal Thompson of Franklin, Tennessee is a family man who loves God. He's a CBD enthusiast who runs CB Discipline, an educational Facebook page. He has professional and personal experience with CBD and researches it regularly. In this episode, you'll learn what CBD is, how it works, and the benefits of it. We explore the societal stigma of cannabis so you can learn why you should move past any stigma to receive the amazing healing properties of CBD. Neal also tells you how to select CBD from reputable labs, ensuring you choose the highest quality CBD and avoid being taken advantage of since it's in an unregulated industry. Neal really emphasizes the importance of taking care of yourself, and that's what it's all about. Subscribe to the On Being Human podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Help us out by leaving a rating and review. You can also find this episode at onbeinghumanpodcast.com/episodes/046. And that page will include all the links that Neal mentions throughout this episode. Want more love? Visit onbeinghumanpodcast.com and sign up with your name and email address, and I'll send you a free gift. It's a personal mantra that I use daily, and I promise no spam whatsoever. Just one little mantra with a big impact. You can also join in the conversation with us on Facebook. That's at On Being Human Podcast. Now, let's hear from Neal. Hi, everybody. Today we have Neal Thompson with us to talk about CBD through the lens of what it means to be human. So, Neal, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here as well, because any chance I get to talk about CBD, and I'm an amateur at it, but being able to talk about it, I love that opportunity.
Awesome. Well, you say you're an amateur, but you seem to have a lot of knowledge about it. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners today and give them a little background about who you are and what you do?
Yes. What I do now currently is I'm in the restaurant industry, and I work in the marketing and in training and designing marketing programs. But previously in a career, I was in the cannabis industry. And the company that I was with made a product that is utilized with cannabis. And you got to keep in mind, when I say cannabis, I'm talking about marijuana, if you will, as well as hemp. And so this product was a supplement in the growth process. So on the hemp side of it, it would be utilized to strengthen the plant, to keep mold from developing in the plant, as well as increase the CBD in hemp. So I developed a real interest in this, and through going to trade shows and workshops and stuff, I was like, this is something really amazing. And so I just started continuing to research it. And even though I'm no longer with that company, I read up on CBD every day. And so what I really turned to start doing was I wanted to educate people on it, because it is so misunderstood and people can be taken such advantage of, that I was like, I can help.
Sure. Awesome. So let's back up a little bit and get to know you a little bit more.
Okay.
Can you tell us what your life was like growing up, and also what your life is like today?
Sure. I grew up in Northwest Georgia, in a small town called Dalton, Georgia. It's about 30 miles south of Chattanooga, Tennessee. My mom and dad still live there. My sister and her husband and daughter still live there. And my parents have been married 60 years. And so it was a family of four growing up. I always say it was a little bit of a Leave It to Beaver type family. And there's good and bad to Leave It to Beaver family, I'll tell you that. Graduated from high school in Dalton, went to the University of Georgia and graduated from the University of Georgia with a degree in marketing. And so today, fast forward, I'm married and I have two kids. My daughter is 21 and she is a senior, soon to graduate from University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And my son is 18 and he is a senior in high school. So he'll be graduating in May as well. So May is going to be a big month.
Awesome.
And so my wife and I in October will be married 25 years.
Now, do you guys have a Leave It to Beaver lifestyle?
I'll tell you this. I choose not to have that Leave It to Beaver lifestyle because to me, I learned over the years after watching so much of Leave It to Beaver that they swept everything under the rug. Mm. They always looked good. Once they walked out the door of their house, they never showed that there were any problems. And so I realized that over the years growing up, we were that Leave It to Beaver household. Now, my mom did not wear pearls and clean the house, and my dad wear a tie when he's mowing the yard. But we did. It seemed like we hid anytime that we were upset. So one thing that was big about in these 25 years that I've been married is that I think I started out a little bit that way, but understanding it over the years, it's just like you got to be who you are, and you've got to be vulnerable, and you need to be willing to ask questions and willing to seek help if you ever need help. So yes, in a certain way, maybe there's four in our family, kind of Leave It to Beaver-like, and we live in a house, but we don't sweep things under the rug.
That sounds really, really nice. So what is the most important thing in life to you?
The most important thing in life to me, I would say, is living my best life and trusting God. I heard this once, and I'm going to repeat this. And a friend told me one day, he said, God doesn't wake up in the morning wanting to be Neal Thompson or going to be Neal Thompson. So why do you wake up in the morning wanting to be God? And I was like, wow. And I've never forgotten that because I thought, that's true. Trust God. So the most important thing in life for me is trusting God and following his lead, as hard as that may be at times. But what's important is doing that and taking care of myself.
Absolutely. And one important thing that I think has already come up is the point that you don't have to sweep things under the rug to trust God.
That is very true.
Mm-hmm. So let's pivot a little bit into CBD some more. And in short, can you just give us an overview of what CBD is?
Yes. CBD is short for cannabidiol. So that's a big word. So that's not keeping it short. But CBD is a natural compound that's found in cannabis, which cannabis has a real rich history in medicine. There are therapeutic properties in CBD that are being tested and confirmed every day. And so in short, I guess I could say CBD is what's known as a cannabinoid that's found in the cannabis plant. And there's over 100 cannabinoids in that plant. So CBD is just one of them.
Okay. And why is it important?
Back in the 60s, it was discovered that the human body has an endocannabinoid system, which in essence means it's the part of our body that balances everything. It detects when things are going out of line. And so CBD is one of those cannabinoids that has been tested and proven to help our body and our endocannabinoid system in regulating it and making it more, if you will, like the Goldilocks type thing, making things right and balanced. So CBD is one of those things that can help regulate things in your system.
Gotcha. Now, how did you get involved with CBD professionally?
With the previous company that I was with and doing a lot of research and working actually with hemp growers as well as the other cannabis growers, I just developed a real interest in it and finding and hearing it from them. One guy was telling me one day, he said, if you have like a real bad muscle pain or something, you could just rub this CBD on it and it'll be a cooling effect and it'll remove that pain. I was like, really? And so I tried it and he was absolutely right. And so then I was trying other methods of it, and we can talk about the other methods in a bit, if you will. But if I got a headache, this guy told me, he said, if you get a headache, if you'll take CBD, he said, your headache will go away and you won't have to take any medication. So that's where I got just so interested in it. So that's where I started doing all the research and talking to the hemp growers and labs and just everybody involved with it.
Gotcha. So being involved professionally sort of led to you personally getting involved with it.
It did.
And so do you want to go ahead and tell us about the ways to use it that you had mentioned?
I'll start with the endocannabinoid system and what I was talking about. That's also called homeostasis, which means balancing. So the CBD, there's different ways of consuming it, but you got to back up a little bit and understand, well, there's extraction. They have to extract the CBD from the hemp. One of the most misunderstood things is a lot of people think CBD is illegal. And it is legal in all 50 states, thanks to the Farm Bill of 2018. And with growing of hemp, and hemp grows outside, marijuana it can grow outside in certain climates, but it typically grows inside. And they're cousins, if you will. So the big difference is hemp is a male plant and marijuana is a female plant.
Okay.
And so hemp has got so many different uses. It can replace plastic. It can be used in clothing, all that stuff. But the big thing is that getting that CBD from that plant. And then there's so many different ways or different methods of where they can put CBD, be it a lotion or like a rub, through gummies, so edibles, through tinctures, which would be like tinctures are drops that you would put under your tongue. And so through all my research, I was finding out, how does it work? How should you use the tincture? What are the expectations? And but the biggest thing that I've learned is, the FDA does not regulate it. Not yet. They're still doing all their research. So you got to make sure you're getting CBD because it's an unregulated industry. People are really kind of taken as fools in this market because CBD is such a buzz that people go, oh, I got to buy that CBD. Oh, here, I can get it. And you may not even be taking any CBD. There may not be any CBD even in that product.
Okay.
Until it's regulated, you got to do your research.
We'll definitely talk a little bit more about how people can do their research and not get taken advantage of or use something that's not actually CBD. So how does CBD work?
So we have this endocannabinoid system in our body, which has receptors. And there's two primary receptors, like receptor A and receptor B. And receptor A, those receptors are typically in the nervous system and kind of housed in the brain. And the B receptors are more in the immune system, the digestive system, on the skin. So when CBD hits these receptors, then it signals to the endocannabinoid system. It's like the endocannabinoid system is sitting there in your body, and it starts hearing, like, let's just say the digestive system get very loud and complaining about something. Well, it wants to balance it. The endocannabinoid system wants to balance your whole body, but there's an inflammation in there. There's something creating chaos. And so the typical way, since really 1937, that things have been treated in the body is through medication. Mm-hmm. And prior to 1937, medication really was contained THC and CBD. And when I say THC, that is the psychoactive cannabinoid that makes you high.
Okay.
To me, it's very interesting because in your system, if you'll think about this, you have those receptors. So if you take CBD as a tincture, so you put the drops under your tongue,
Mhm.
and you really want to let it sit there for 30 to 60 seconds before you swallow it, because you want it to absorb into the lymph nodes and go through the system. And then typically, you're going to see, like if you have a headache, that headache's going to go away, like with me, maybe in 2 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
And it's amazing. And so, with the use of it, a lot of the majority of people use CBD for anxiety. So if they're feeling anxious or anything, then they can take CBD either as a gummy, as an edible, or a tincture. That CBD gets into the body,
Mhm.
and the receptor, that A receptor in the brain, it triggers that, and it basically goes in there and takes care of the problem. And then our endocannabinoid system, once that headache is gone, the endocannabinoid system can get rid of that cannabinoid then, and it exits the system.
Oh.
So it's only in there to repair and bring it back to balance. And once it's back at balance, then it leaves the system. If you think about marijuana and THC and the psychoactive piece of it, well, it stays in your system. The endocannabinoid system doesn't really get rid of it right then as it will with CBD, where it sees everything's okay. We're back to that Goldilocks or homeostasis balance system, and then it basically gets rid of it out of the system.
Okay. And so just to clarify, CBD in no way is psychoactive.
In no way is CBD psychoactive. The Farm Act of 2018 says it allows CBD products, the tincture, the gummies, the rub. You can get it in several different ways. You can get it it's a full spectrum, which it will contain THC, but it's only allowed to have 0.3% THC, and 0.3% THC will not get you high.
Okay. Is it allowed to contain that because it's just hard to extract the two from each other?
No, because the THC has so many healing properties of its own.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You can buy CBD products that are isolate products, meaning there's no THC in it. And I would say this, the only reason that you would want to take a CBD product that is a isolate where it does not contain THC would be if you were concerned that your job could do a drug test, because in that case, THC would show up in your system.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're seeing across the country is, and states are regulating companies' drug tests, that they're allowing more of THC to show up in it. Even that 0.3% is being allowed in so many states now. So THC has many benefits of its own too, other than just getting people high.
Yeah. So, and you had mentioned that it has gotten rid of headaches for you, CBD. I think you told me that you've used tinctures for that.
Yes.
Okay. What are other benefits you found, and what impact has it had in your life overall?
Well, the impact that I have seen is primarily, I just want to try it. I wanted to try it to see what I was hearing was true, because you gotta understand that I can't say to you, you do this tincture and it'll get rid of your headache.
Mm-hmm.
What I can say is it gets rid of my headaches, and it's proven to get rid of headaches. But I would never be able to say, you can take this tincture and your headache will go away, or you can rub this on your sore arm and the soreness will go away. Because since it's not FDA regulated, nobody can say that. So, but in many cases, what you want to say is, if you're on any kind of medication, you'd want to check with your physician before you did a tincture or you started eating the edibles, just to make sure that it's not going to be counter effective. I think I should say with whatever you're treating, because I do know through a lot of research, CBD can have an adverse effect on the liver if you're on any kind of medication for your liver.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, so you really do need to, if you're on any kind of medication, you'd want to check with a physician before you start it, and hope that physician, which I pretty much this day and time, they know about CBD. They know the benefits.
Gotcha. So that brings me to the question, there are still negative viewpoints around the cannabis family. And in certain areas, it seems like, healthcare professionals aren't talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like the negative viewpoints would be different per geographical region or maybe per culture. So I do have a two-part question for you, which is, why is there still a stigma? And then the second part of that is, what are some of these viewpoints and what are you doing to try to change those?
There's still a stigma because people will hear the word cannabis and they'll go, oh, that's illegal. Cannabis, THC, CBD, everything was legal up until 1937. And then CBD did not become legal again until 2018. When you think about that, during those years, people were like, oh, it's bad. It's a bad thing. And so that has just stuck with people. And I don't think a lot of people don't realize the FDA does not regulate it. They just still have in their mind, well, I can't take CBD because it's bad. It's illegal. I have a friend that said to me once, he said, I'm not taking that stuff. And I said, why? He said, well, that's bad. And if I get drug tested, it'll show up. And I said, well, no. I said, and I was explaining about the isolate and the full spectrum. And I said, no, that won't show up if you take an isolate. And then I was talking to him one day about, he was talking about his leg was hurting him. And I said, you could rub a CBD full spectrum on your leg. And he was like, no, there's THC in it. He said, it could show up in a drug test. And I was like, no, it's not, because it's going onto your skin. I said, unless you have a cut there that you're rubbing it into the cut, it's not getting into the bloodstream. Okay. So you can see where that stigma comes from, and it just still exists. And I'll see, when I talk about CBD to some people or THC, sometimes they'll look at me like, oh, you're one of them. I mean, I'm talking about, when I'm talking about CBD, some people think I'm a stoner then.
Yeah.
To answer the second part of the question, I just saw that there needed to be education. People need to be taught. And I thought, if I could help spread this message of the benefits of it, what it's proving to help, how you should take it, what you should do, well, I'm going to help change that stigma. And as we see nationwide, there's like 34 states now, medicinal marijuana is legal. And then you've got, mainly those West Coast states and some in the Northeast, it's legal for recreational. But all the research that's going into medicinal, and when you hear things like, even like on the CBD side, CBD helps with epilepsy and seizures, and it's proving that it works there. Well, you know what? I want to help educate people, because to me, there's so much focus on medication. And the costs are just huge for this, and you can get addicted to some medication. But, let me say this, you cannot get addicted to CBD, and THC is also non-addictive.
Gotcha.
But people think that, it is. I'll get hooked on, I had a friend tell me one day, she said, I don't want to get hooked on CBD. And I was like, you're not. You can't even overdose on CBD. I mean, the most that anything would happen with CBD if you took too much is you might get a little sleepy. And thus, some people, if they're having trouble going to sleep at night, will do a CBD tincture to help them fall asleep.
Gotcha.
You think about it, then, as I said, the endocannabinoid system is now balanced.
Right. And then I imagine if you have too much in your system, since it just gets rid of it, if you're not in that homeostasis state, then there you go. That seems why you wouldn't be able to overdose on it.
That is exactly it. So that's why I was saying, we have those enzymes that will get rid of that CBD after it fixes what it's in there to fix.
Sure.
And so it leaves the system. You can even see the lawmakers in the state of Tennessee. There are lawmakers that are introducing it more into the General Assembly, but there are some that are like, oh, absolutely not. No, this is the devil's work.
Right.
And it's like, what? Read up, do your research. And that's what I feel like my purpose is to help people understand.
Gotcha. How do you educate people? Just talking to people you run into who have questions, or do you have formal speaking engagements?
I've developed some material to be able to go out and do some speaking engagements. And I'm talking to one organization right now about going to speak to senior citizens about the benefits of CBD, because the senior population is getting taken advantage of in many ways, but this especially.
Yeah.
I'm looking to do that. And I would love, love, love to go out and speak to groups. I would speak to groups every day and talk about it, because I would just love to have the interaction of who's tried it, what did you see from it. But also, I was so interested in it. I developed a Facebook page called CB Discipline, and the whole purpose of CB Discipline is to educate people.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, we'll definitely put that in the show notes so our listeners can go over there and check that out.
Yes. One of the biggest things that I've seen CBD do for me, I had on my face, the doctor referred to it as a liver spot. These are spots that can come on your skin as you age. And he said, you can just live with it. It's not cancerous. It's all okay. He said, if you want to get it removed, you can go. And it was just a little bit raised, but I went to a dermatologist and they said, we're going to remove it for you and everything should be fine. Well, it came back. And it came back bigger and darker. And so my option was spend more money and go back to the dermatologist, or you know what? I've got this CBD cream here. I'm going to start putting it on there. And I had read about how CBD has been proven to get rid of scars. And I was reading about it, and it said that people would rub it on their skin twice a day. And so I started doing that. Well, do you know, it completely went away. There are no scars on my face. There's nothing there. And it was interesting. My wife was taking pictures of it like every night. She's looking at this going, this is amazing.
That's
And
awesome.
so even though it's gone, I still rub it on there twice a day. And she asked me one day, she said, why do you do that? I said, because I don't want it to come back, And so I have no idea if it would, but I keep putting it on there. Years and years ago, I had a sledding accident and hit some rocks, and I scraped up my forehead, and I had a scar there. Well, it's no longer there.
Awesome.
CBD got rid of it.
Well, there you go. And you've mentioned the benefits and why you're passionate about wanting to educate people on this, but are there any ill side effects or bad things about CBD other than it could interact with liver treatment?
No, there is nothing. The only thing that I was saying earlier that could happen from taking too much CBD is you might get sleepy. But we always back up to that part where I was saying the body, the endocannabinoid system, will get rid of that cannabinoid after it has brought the system back to balance. And the other thing that we really haven't touched on was CBD comes in different milligrams, anywhere from 250 milligrams up to 2,500 milligrams.
Okay.
Yeah, I always have to say to anybody, when you start taking CBD, if you're going to try it, start low and slow. So what I mean by that is, a low milligram, try it and see if that works. And you can always increase it over time. When I hear people taking 2,500 milligrams of CBD, and that's on the upper end of the spectrum there. The only reason that I would be going to a 2,500 milligram would be because anything less than that didn't work as well. And I find, like with myself, with a tincture, like a 1,500 milligram is ideal. And, you got to make sure that it's tested. You got to make sure it's gone to laboratories, that there's no heavy metals in it, or that there's CBD in it. There's so much confusion out there with what is hemp. You'll see hemp seed oil. Well, that means you're getting it from the seed. Well, guess what's not in the seed? CBD. CBD is in the stalks and the leaves. When you're reading the product, read the label and make sure you know what you're getting. I mean, make sure you're getting CBD and look to see how much is in there. That is the biggest issue that people are facing is, are they truly getting CBD? Because FDA doesn't regulate it.
Sure. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So you mentioned, it needs to be tested for heavy metals. And you've told me before we got on the air that it's important to make sure a product is free of mold, volatile organic compounds known as VOCs. How can a person be sure they're not being misled? And if they want to try CBD, how can they make sure the product they're getting is high quality?
I always say this, you need to do research on the companies that are producing it. You want to make sure that the products have documentation that shows that it has been tested and what was the lab that tested it. You want to see the lab. You should also be able to see on a label where you can go and read about the process and what actually is in it. And so many times people will buy it and they won't look to see, really, is there CBD in this or not?
Gotcha.
Companies will do a guarantee for consumers. They'll stand behind their product that they say you will give a 30-day money-back guarantee, 100% refund if the product doesn't work. That's what you want. Third-party tested. That's what you're looking for.
Third-party tested.
Yeah, because that's a big thing, because I could be the company producing the CBD product and I could also be testing it. Well, I could skew those results, right?
Sure.
You want to know how it's extracted. Is it all natural? Non-GMO is big now too. And what kind of facility is it made in? So I know to some people that might sound like a lot of research that you need to do, but just be careful. Read. You got to read.
Do you think that CBD can help end the opioid crisis?
I think a combination of CBD and THC. That is proving to work. And also CBD and THC are proving to help people that are alcoholic and get them off of alcohol.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of research being done. I do know from research in the opioid situation, and opioid companies, those pharmaceutical companies, do not want THC on the market.
Exactly.
Because it's going to shut them down. Because this is a natural product. And, when we go back to the very, very beginning of our conversation about talking about what does being human mean to me, I look at it this way. It's not man-made. God gave us that plant. And so if everything that we read and we're taught through life is, God provides this to us and he's made us and everything. Well, why are we saying these things are bad?
Right.
I see the stigma going away in places, and especially all the travels that I was doing in California and Oregon and in Washington and Colorado, and it's no big deal. People realize this works.
Right.
And even in those states, pharmacies, doctors are prescribing medicinal marijuana, and there's pharmacies to fulfill that prescription.
Wonderful.
So we're seeing this whole change. So I'd say, and definitely in my lifetime, we'll see it legalized nationwide.
The reason I had asked if you think it will help end the opioid crisis is because that is enough motivation for me, and the fact that it's natural to think the research is worth it. So it's all sort of connected there.
Yes, it is. It is. You could probably tell from my voice, I truly love learning about this.
Yeah. Yeah, you're super passionate.
For example, last year we were down in Georgia for Easter. I was telling my dad, who's now 89, and my mother-in-law, who's now 83. We were telling them about it. And my dad started doing the tincture because he had arthritis so badly. Well, my dad does not take any medication for arthritis now. He does this tincture. He's out working in the yard. He's doing stuff all the time. The arthritis went away. If he feels a little bit, maybe like something in his hand or something, he'll rub some on there and it'll take the pain away. And my mother-in-law, the same thing. She was having to get shots in her back and she started using CBD and doesn't have to do that anymore.
That's awesome. So, Neal, if people were hesitant to try CBD, what would you tell them?
If they were hesitant, I would say, don't be afraid of it. It's perfectly legal. You can buy it in stores. There are CBD stores, as well as you can buy it from companies, and it can be shipped. It's perfectly legal for them to ship CBD products to you. There's one in Colorado. I think the world of their products. But there's also a store here in my town that it's a great guy that runs it. It's very reputable. And then there's also a company in Nashville that they grow all their hemp in Kentucky. Great products as well.
Awesome. I'd like to shift a little bit to a more societal perspective. And can you express for us why it would be important for society as a whole to sort of shift its view to this more natural product, this more natural solution?
Yes, I think the big thing is we've been so accustomed to pharmaceutical companies developing pharmaceuticals, if you will, for everything, and there's a medicine for everything.
Mhm.
That I think over the years we've just allowed ourselves to just be absorbed with that, and so well, the only way to treat anything is to take medicine. And you hear these people that are on so many different medications. Well, if you just open your mind up and think about, well, if so many medications you can get addicted to. And that's what this country is facing right now, as we've talked about the opioid addiction. If a natural plant contains stuff in it, these cannabinoids, that treats people and can eliminate these things, well, that means if you have an open mind, you're going to want to try it because you think, I might not have to take medication.
Mhm.
I might not need this. So my advice to everybody is just open your mind up and think about it. And is medication the end all? I've got a friend that is a pediatrician, and we were talking one day, and he said, like your CB Discipline site on Facebook, and he said, I watch what other people write, and I like to read what you put on there. He said, I'm a full believer in it. He said, I know it works. And his comment to me was, I know the benefits of THC as well for medicinal purposes. And he said, I'm just telling you, the day's coming when it's going to be legal everywhere, and we're not going to have so much medication that we're going to have to take. We're going to go back to the way it once was. I mean, it's going to go full circle. And when you see bottles from the 30s and the 20s that were medicine, and they contain THC and CBD and these things, well, I think we're going to go back. We're going back to that, and we're learning that this really did work.
Gotcha. With far less side effects, I would say.
With far less side effects, right?
Yeah. So, speaking of healthcare professionals, how do we get our healthcare professionals on board who aren't?
Again, I think that's where they need to have an open mind as well. But I think the more times people ask their physicians about it, then they're being educated on it. Physicians are educated on CBD and THC. It's just going to take a matter of time. But I think the problem comes down to it's the way it's always been. And so why change it?
You had mentioned going full circle back to how we treated illness or symptoms back in the 30s and a long time ago, I'll say. Some people would say that's regressing, but what would you argue the advancements are there? Like, we're going back to move forward almost. What does that represent for the human condition?
To me, we're progressing back to the way it's supposed to be. I think we learn so much from our past, and we have to be open-minded to embrace that and say, hey, you know what? If it worked, then we should try it now. But, that stigma is just, for some people, it's like, oh, it's the devil's flower.
Mm-hmm.
That this is not good. But, the more research you do about natural remedies, I mean, you can open up the Bible and read that stuff.
Sure.
It says something. So I think, again, we need to go back, but it's going to take open-minded consumers and open-minded physicians. A lot of people won't do it, won't even try anything until then they see that THC is approved for medicinal purposes throughout the whole United States. And what the problem is there is they've missed this whole CBD piece.
Right.
It is legal.
Yeah.
So why aren't you trying it?
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense. And I was thinking too that even though we're going back to use older types of remedies, we have so much more technology now to advance it and improve on it. Why not do that,
Right, that's right.
So, Neal, where can people find you and your information if they want to learn more? You mentioned your Facebook page. What is that address?
Yes, it's CB Discipline. That's the Facebook page name. I named it that because discipline is education and learning. And I thought, well, hey, let's have a little play on the acronym there. Mm-hmm. CB Discipline. And, I post on there once or twice a week. I don't bombard people with anything, but everything that I put on there is for education purposes. I'm not on there promoting products per se. I'll link my URL to like Canaroo or different ones just so people can go, because I believe in those companies and know the products work and they're credible. But going to CB Discipline and liking that page, you're going to see my posts on the benefits of it and for personal reasons. And you'll see other people comment on what they've used it for and how it's worked for them.
Awesome. And so you're not selling anything and you're not affiliated with any of these companies. This is just a passion project.
It's a passion project.
Well, this is the last question for you. So what is some parting wisdom that you can leave for our listeners?
Keep an open mind and understand that what God has given us is for us. He's given us stuff for us as humans because he's made us as well. So don't close your mind off because you heard Nancy Reagan say, just say no to drugs, and now you think CBD is a drug when it's no longer even on the illegal substance list. Keep an open mind and research. And don't be afraid to ask, but don't be taken for a fool with this product.
Well, that's a great way to sum it up. And you have given us a lot to think about and process. I really appreciate it. Just thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, great. I love helping people understand.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tune in weekly at onbeinghumanpodcast.com for more soul-exposing explorations of what it means to be human. Until next week, love to you all.